I want to talk a little bit about manufacturing here, and also build on the comments of the previous comments, is that we have a situation, Mr. Smith, in the manufacturing sector and auto suppliers where we are seeing increasing orders coming in, and yet the working capital is not available to ramp up the production necessary in order to meet those orders. So it's a situation where there really is a dysfunctional capital market system here. When you've got orders coming in, you can hire people, you can move forward, but the capital isn't there. So perhaps, and I know you talked about that in your written testimony, if you could elaborate a little bit more about the challenges of manufacturing, where you are right now, why credit is going to limit your ability to create jobs even though these orders are coming in right now. And also you talk about the collateral support program and why that is a way to have direct help to you through the banking industry. And I know you referenced the Manufacturing Modernization and Diversification Act, which I appreciate, which Mr. Dingell, Mr. Levin, members of this committee, both Mr. Frank, Dennis Moore, Mr. Kanjorski, and others have endorsed. If you could kind of flesh some of that out for us, I'd appreciate it.
Sure, absolutely. You know, I have to disagree what has been said before about the President's plan on injecting $30 billion of capital into the banking industry. I think that's absolutely what's necessary. You know, when I sit on the board of a community bank, I think, you know, our situation in manufacturing is real simple. We have a top-line situation. We need more sales. I don't know what the banks are going to do. And again, what has been said, the small community banks did not create this issue. In our particular area, I ran a pure bank report for banks under $5 billion in assets, and this is Genesee, Kent, Livingston, Oakland, Ottawa, Wayne, Macomb, and Washtenaw counties. And of these, the total capital ratio, the aggregate average capital ratio was 7.7%. Well, the FDIC says in its public cease and desist orders that you require a minimum capital ratio of 8%. So what has to happen is that these banks need they need to raise $45 billion $45 million in capital before they can make one loan. The real issue is that the banks can't make loans because the regulators have their foot on their necks. They cannot function. I mean, the only way that in order to make your capital ratios where they need to be is either you need more capital, and if you don't have access to capital through a program such as what's being proposed, is to shrink the size of your bank. And how you shrink the size of your bank, you just simply don't make loans. And that's clearly, on the community bank that I'm on the board of, that's what we do. We absolutely just don't make loans. We have to shrink the size of our balance sheet. So if you're a manufacturer or a small businessman, where do you go? So it's really a twofold process. Number one is the banks have got to have the ability to make loans. And this $30 billion, and if you use a typical 10-to-1 ratio for banks, is that $30 billion then becomes 300, 10 times that, which is going to be available for loans that could be created throughout our entire economic, the portfolio that we have, particularly in manufacturing. The other situation we have is that as companies ourselves, when you take a look at our deteriorated banks are under pressure from the regulators. Everything has to be reappraised. So I can tell you that many of my peers have had regulators come in, take a look at your balance sheet, reappraise all your assets, and all of a sudden you're finding that you're taking a third hit to your balance sheet, and you don't have the ability to make the loan. So having a program where your collateral is guaranteed by the government, such as the bill that's being proposed, is absolutely the other part of the step. It's really a two-step process. Banks have got to be able to make money. They've got to have their capital ratios restored. The $30 billion is an excellent program. I can tell you on the community bank, it can't come fast enough. And the rules on how this gets dispersed, if it is to be dispersed, aren't really clear. And in terms of manufacturers, we need to have our collateral positions guaranteed because we've taken such a hit.
Okay. Still have time.
Mr. Brave.
Also, I've been hearing from our auto suppliers that they've had lines of credit pulled or new loans denied, not because of underwriting concerns or necessarily risky investments, but just because the bank is overexposed to the auto sector. Your board position on the Equipment Manufacturers Association, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. You're almost better off being a really lousy customer to the banks because they can't get rid of you. But if you are marketable, if you are bankable, you're really in jeopardy. So it's worse if you're in better financial shape than worse financial shape.
Time is expired.